got one? Go ahead, brother.
Let's go. Are we ready?
Yeah, Thomas is ready. We're ready.
I'm ready. Yeah.
I asked this question of Tyler. You know that you're a competitive guy. Last year, Bobby Caldwell was the guy, but still your group, not what you probably would have wanted. A lot of injuries. How driven are you to take this group to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we want to do what we can do to put the team in the best position to win. You know, and I thought there were times where, you know, we didn't help DJ out up front and the skill around him. You know, and so it's it's 11 guys doing their job, right? We say all the time, do your 111. So we're very driven, and more importantly, the guys up front are very driven. We've had a great summer. Those guys, they hear the noise too. You know, they're very driven. They want to make a statement with this season as well. So I think it's been a great offseason, and they're ready to go.
What's something that the offensive line group has improved on the most in the spring, and what's your point of emphasis as we head into fall camp?
You know, I think we tried to slow it down a little bit in some of our install, collaborated well with the defense and trying to get back to some of the basics and the fundamentals and the techniques of the position, which is what you do every offseason. And so I think those guys have really bought into some of that. Some of those techniques are new and different from what they've done in the past, and we've changed a few things in our offense, and so some of the techniques are going to change as a result of that. So I think for us, it's kind of hitting that reset button, getting back to the fundamentals, the techniques, and then going into the summer, it's having veteran leadership that can go implement that plan throughout the summer, because we can't be there with them during skills and drills. And so I think those guys have really stepped up to the challenge.
Thomas, can you update on maybe just a health of the line as a whole, and particularly Pennington?
Yeah.
What's he doing, and what's your sort of outlook for him?
Yeah, well, we're all 100% right now. After the spring, they did they call it the gauntlet. They did an evaluation, like functional movement screening on guys, and tested shoulders, knees, ankles, mobility, hip. And so they've done a kind of a prehab program this summer that guys are really responding well to. So Dietrick is progressing well. He's been completely cleared for his knee, and so he's feeling more and more comfortable and confident. And so we're gonna bring him along as fast as we can. It's even if you're 100% cleared, the pounding of football practice every day is going to be something he hasn't really had yet, and so we definitely need to make sure we monitor that and bring him along, in a healthy way.
Is Mitchell Mays kind of the guy that will roll out there first at right guard to start camp?
Right now we have Bryn and Mitchell both slotted as starters, and so our first practice, it'll be, if Mitchell's the first guy, Bryan's the second, and then the next period one of them's going to take the ones reps, one will take the twos, and they'll alternate every single time. The benefit that we have is our two deep defensive line, there's very little drop off. So whether a guy's taking first team reps or second team reps, he's going against great players. So we will evaluate. We evaluate every part of practice, and every day we'll roll out the guy that graded out better. Will be the first guy out there. We do want it to mean something for that guy to be the first guy in the flex lines, the first guy in practice, and then really when you get into your scrimmage situations, is sometimes guys separate themselves even more because we're off the field. It's not as controlled environment. You let them play and see who can kind of distance themselves a little bit.
Is Blake Miller doing both tackles right now?
He's been cross-training this, yes ma'am, he's been cross-training this spring. Blake, for young guys like Blake and Colin, you want to kind of leave them in one spot and let them get used to the offense. And then because of our lack of depth right there in the spring game and some sickness that we had, he had to play both sides. That was the first time he's played. So he's been cross-training all summer at both tackle spots.
What did Bryn do to kind of move into that group and be kind of right there as a coach starter?
Bryan Tucker? Yeah, I mean, he's I think Mitchell and Bryan and Trent, those guys, and John Williams, third year in the system, third year in the offense, third year in our strength program. Tucker has physical tools. He's a big, strong guy. He can move people. And so for him, it's understanding the offense and the finer details of it. So I think from a mental standpoint, he's taken that next step, which is what's really helped him. And then a guy like Mitchell has worked really hard, but he's also been kind of a putty guy, play tackle and guard. And so we tried to leave him at guard as much as we could for the spring to give him a fair shot, and see how he feels. In the same way, John was a tackle this time last year that ended up playing guard and was doing really well before he got hurt.
you've got to make sure Putt gets his reps to get ready for Georgia Tech. But who are the guys you got to bring along behind him, and how do you make sure they all get the reps that they need?
Yeah, so right now, kind of Trent Howard and Ryan Lithicum are both taking second and third team reps, and so those guys have had a really good offseason. They're both really had a high commitment level, so we've been pleased with that. So similar to Brian and Mitchell, those guys will rotate who gets the second, third team reps, and that's exactly right. You want to get Putnam as many reps as you can and get him ready, but also are there opportunities to maybe throw one of those guys out there with the first team? Again, the good thing is we have a lot of depth on the defensive line, so there's not a big drop off from that first to second team guy. So whoever's getting those reps is going to go against a good opponent. So I think that helps.
As far as Marcus Tate, is Marcus Tate still partially tackle, or is he all mostly guard?
Well, he's going to get as many reps as he can at guard. Jordan McFadden's a fifth-year guy, and so there might be some pockets in this fall where we just kind of slide him out a little bit and put Tristan in there, give Tristan some first-team reps, get Marcus out there a little bit, because that's always last year it was you always as an indicator that injuries can happen and will happen, and so who is your next best tackle if something were to happen to Jordan or Will Putnam? What's your best option? Is it Tristan? Is it Blake? Is it sliding Marcus out there? So that's the benefit of cross training is you get to see guys playing multiple positions. But he's going to be our starting left guard. It looks like unless something changes and some other guy comes along. And so you want to make sure he is feeling really confident at that position.
You talk about being a freshman playing left guard like he was last year. How difficult is that? How much do you think he learned next week?
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't get any harder than going against Georgia, game one, right? They had some great players. So I think he really learned a lot about himself and the ups and downs and playing big time college football, right? So I think he's in a really good headspace. He's a committed guy. It means a lot to him, and so he doesn't want to let the team down. And so I think it's gonna this year it's gonna be his mindset's gonna be completely different. I think it's gonna really pay off for him.
I know you can't talk about specific recruits, but just going out and recruiting, obviously it's going pretty well. Just what's that been like getting back on the road, and what's kind of your message been that you feel like has been working so well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly been encouraging to see that our brand is strong, that our message resonates with the right guys and the right families. Yeah, it was, with all this NIL and portal stuff, and the college landscape is up in the air a little bit, and there's some confusion. Coach Sweeney said the other day, the more chaotic college football becomes, the more attractive Clemson will become to the right guys. And I think we've been able to identify the right guys that fit our culture, fit our program, the right families that fit our program, and then I think there's affirmation through the summer that those guys really want to be at Clemson. So I think it's been very encouraging for us.
Can you expound a little upon what he meant or what he's saying by that? I'm sure if you'd rather, I can just ask him.
No. I mean, you can certainly ask him. I think everyone knows that there's a lot of question marks going on in college football, and a lot of people that are making a lot higher on the totem pole than me are making those decisions, right? So there's questions, and then I think the other aspect for us was this was the most turnover we've had on our staff since 2011, and so what I wasn't aware of until we really got on the road was there's a lot of people talk. I mean, everyone talks about Clemson. There's more negative recruiting going on than I realized because we talk about Clemson. We don't talk about other people. And so I think there were people that were trying to kind of expose some chinks in the armor for Clemson that, hey, that this is the beginning of the end for us. And so I think it was good affirmation for us to be like, hey, there's a lot of questions, but we're well positioned with NIL. We have best facilities in the country. We have great resources that our guys are going to come here and have incredible opportunities. But we're not leading with those conversations, right? It's about our culture, it's about the education, it's about the fit, it's about Paul Jordy, it's about everything else that Clemson has to offer. And so that's attractive for the right guys.
So you guys aren't in the Big Ten yet, right?
We're unless you know something I don't.
Thomas, you talked about the staff. Even though there was a lot of turnover, it's guys who've been working together with each other around here for a while. So the transition inside probably doesn't seem as crazy as for some on the outside, does it?
Exactly. Yeah, Pete, that's a good question. And I didn't just start coaching football in January either. I mean, that's the other thing is there's a lot of guys that know Clemson, that know our program, that know our brand, know our culture, and then also know football, right? And so Kyle Richardson's coached a lot of football. Brandon Streeter's coached a lot of football. I've coached a lot of football, experienced a lot of football. CJ and Tyler, and so I think we've got a great staff. Wes Goodwin. I mean, Wes Goodwin knows a ton of football, right? And so just because people outside the building didn't know who he was, I mean, just look at. I saw something. Maybe Mike Jones said something in the SEC media day about Wes. About Wes. It just shows you the respect that guys in our program have for him, because they're around him every day. If he didn't know what he was doing, they would tell you, right? I mean, Mike Jones has no reason to say that if it's not true. So. There's a ton of we like it. It's that little bit of an underdog mentality, but there's a lot of confidence in our building, about who we have and on the field and who we have coaching.
For you guys in particular, you, CJ, Tyler, you all played together.
Yeah.
Here at Clemson. How does that help the cohesion on the sideline when you guys are communicating with each other?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, we started all in meetings yesterday, and hearing Coach Sweeney kind of go back to the basics of the program, and Tyler was here in 08 for his interim year, and then CJ and I were here in 09, his first year as the head coach, and a lot of the foundational principles that he was trying to lay. And so it ties into recruiting our players. Like, we've lived it, we've been through it, we were here for the transition, and so I think we can relate to our players. We know what they're going through, and then also I think we know each other well. I know Tyler well, I know CJ well, and so there's a mutual respect there and a love for each other that I think if there's not chemistry in your staff, I think the players pick up on that. And so when you have good camaraderie and chemistry on your staff, I think that bleeds into your offense, to your defense, and to the team as a whole.
How many of the players know you guys were not only Clemson guys, but you played together? How many of you guys?
I think they all know it. I mean, we've talked about it. We have 27 current former players on staff. It's something we talk about a lot. And so I think they know that, and I think there's a certain pride level there for those guys. We also speak often about what the Paul means to us, and we challenge our guys, like, if you're putting that on your pads, it means something to us, and it should mean something to you. And so I think they understand the weight of that.
If you didn't have to take anything else into consideration, and you were the only one that kind of got to call this decision, how many offensive linemen scholarship would you ideally carry?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. I think a lot of people are 15 to 16 is kind of a good number. So I think, we're trying to get it back up there, to 15, 16. And so, but then again, it's just, making sure, I think the other part of that is you want to make sure you're taking a fairly consistent amount every year. If you take 2 and 3 a year for a couple years in a row, then you got to go get 5 or 6. And so sometimes your quality can be affected by that. So, I think we want to take, you want to take 3 or 4 guys every single year just to kind of keep that where you want. And the reality, too, is that you're going to have attrition. It's a violent position to play. And so you also have to keep that in mind as well.
I'm sorry if you were asked this, but are you guys set with Putnam at center and you're not looking to the portal?
No, Putnam's been great. No, and the portal's expired, right? You can't, so unless they were in the portal beforehand. But no, we feel good about Putt where he is, and so we got all we need right now.
How valuable is it for your offensive line group to be able to go against guys like Ryan Brzee, Miles Murphy, guys that are projected first-round picks in the NFL? Does that healthy competition really help your offensive line group as a whole? And how can you describe that kind of competition?
Sure. Yeah, it's. Our guys aren't overwhelmed on game day. I think that's the big thing is you see a team, you're watching a team, you're working against that in preparation that week, and then you get on the field and sometimes like, oh man, these guys are way better than we thought they were. But very rarely have we gotten into a game and been overwhelmed. We started playing Alabama, Ohio State in the playoffs, and like, hey coach, we got better players on our team. So it certainly creates a competitive advantage for us. It really forces those guys, whether Jordan McFadden is pretty solidified in that left tackle spot, right? I mean, he's a very solid player, but Jordan has to show up every single day. He might not be afraid of losing his position to someone on our team, but if he doesn't show up, Miles or KJ or Maskell or XT, those guys are going to expose him, make him look bad. So I think that healthy competition has given us a competitive edge, and we talk about in recruiting too, like, hey, iron sharpens iron. You're going to play against the best players every single day, and that's what you want, because it makes you better.
Thomas, you mentioned Jordan. He's a guy we're going to hear from tomorrow. How invaluable is it to have someone like that who's not only a leader on the field, but a leader off of it as well?
Yeah, I mean, he's from an hour away down in Spartanburg, and so he knows Clemson. He believes in Clemson. He's been in a program for 5 years, so he's a very committed guy, and he's just very consistent. He just shows up every single day. I mean, a lot of things people don't talk about. Like he got stingers and bruises and banged and dislocated fingers. All that stuff happens as the season goes on, and he just keeps playing. And so and then he's a great leader for our team. Him and Putnam and Parks are all great leaders. Sometimes they need to become more vocal, but Jordan is a guy that doesn't just lead by example. He brings other guys with him. So if he's coming in Saturday and getting some extra work, or he's going to the castle and doing recovery, he's bringing other guys along with him. And so he's demonstrating to other guys what it takes to be a great player. And he's taking those guys in the film room and watching extra film with them. And so he's an invaluable asset to our team. And one of the reasons our summer has been so good is because you have those three guys in particular who are leading the charge. We can't be out there in the summer. And so you have to have strong veteran leadership that can carry on the drills that you want done and do it the right way.
Does he have some of those coach on the field tendencies that you lean on in particular? As a person?
He does, yeah. I mean, all three of those guys are they're very knowledgeable. They know what they're doing, and so he does a great job kind of bringing along those young guys.
Thomas, if somebody would have told you going into spring that y'all would not get somebody out of the portal to sort of shore up that interior line, would you have been surprised?
No, I don't think I would have been surprised. I mean, I think, we had a very specific criteria that we were looking for, and really feel like one or two guys fit that criteria. And so, but at the end of the day, knew that, hey, we've got 13 guys, 14 guys, plus some really good walk-ons that will give us the depth that we need. And so some of that's just challenging, Putnam. I think I was probably surprised at how well Putnam took over the center job, and then it was also good to see, Bryn and Ryan Linthicum and Trent Howard really kind of starting to take that next step, because that's the other part of it, is the depth behind them is what you're concerned about.
His Putnam snaps, could you maybe give an idea of the frequency of the bad snaps, how it...
Yeah, we tracked it every day. We call it ball in jeopardy. Anytime a guy puts the ball on the ground, whether it's quarterback or running back, we track it. And so from a center standpoint, he averaged about one a day for the first kind of 10 days of practice, which, when you think about the number of snaps he's taken, is really good. And like I said, maybe early in the spring, when he missed early on, it was low, which you can. It's not ideal, but you can deal with that. When I had issues as a player, I snapped it over the head. That's a problem, right? So, but then, one thing is, in the spring game, didn't have a single bad snap, and so he knows it and he feels it, which is always a good sign. And then I mentioned earlier on the radio, I watched some spring games this year, and you watch some of these guys' spring games, and they've got 8, 6, 7, 8 bad snaps in a spring game, and that's something you don't notice, and you should notice, because it should be routine. And then the reports from this summer have been excellent, and so because Putnam's a guy that he's going to take every rep full speed. Some young centers have issues when if you're going half speed and you're practicing your snapping, everything can be fine. Well, now you speed it up, and you've got Brian Brzee across from you, and the tendency to snap it harder and higher, but he takes full speed reps every time. That's been an issue.
The biggest difference compared to Bockhorst last year was just simply the Will having the tire.
Yeah, I think it certainly helps. Bach kind of got in there. He kind of dabbled in it through the spring, but he didn't get many competitive reps in the spring. And so to have 15 extra practices plus the entire summer with the mindset that I'm going to be the starting center, I think is a big difference. Because Bach is, you can't thank Bockhorst enough for what he did. Very unselfish, but he was in a tough position. Some of that was, Mason Trotter broke his hand in camp and some of those things. So he did what the team needed him to do. So I think, that's probably the difference between him and Putt. It's just the opportunities that he's had to master those skills.
was talking to Sean Elliott. He was telling me about at Georgia State. You had something called the safe chair for players, so they can just say whatever they want to say. Do you remember why you implemented that? And
Yeah.
Is there anything similar at Clemson? I guess.
Well, I stole it straight from Coach Sweeney, so yeah, it's very similar. So, yeah, it's funny he said that because he used to give me a hard time about it. Yeah, Coach Sweeney called it the safe seat, and so we would do that throughout summer, where he would just put a little chair down there, and one of our guys would come down there and he'd ask questions, and then the team could ask questions. It's just a way of getting to know your teammates, building those relationships with each other. So when I got down to Georgia State, I felt like there was a little bit of we need to build the camaraderie within the offensive line room. And so that was something we did during training camp. It also breaks up the tedium and monotony of camp and allows guys to see different sides. And then you got to be real. I jumped in the safe seat, and so the idea is any question that is asked, you have to answer it. So it's just a way to build a relationship within the O-line room.
Have you done anything in Clemson to try that?
No, but we've got some stuff planned, for training camp as you get more time. Spring is always a time where you're pressed. That 20-hour rule, whereas in training camp that rule goes away and you have more time with the guys.
How important is that camaraderie just in the offensive line?
Yeah, it's critical. It's critical. I felt like I think part of it was a byproduct of COVID. When I felt like the O-line room was a little bit disjoined, just from COVID and guys living away from each other and all that stuff. And so we've tried to be very intentional about doing stuff together as a group. And we had guys that would be like, hey guys, I'm grilling out this weekend. Who wants to show up? And then the guys wouldn't show up. So it wasn't a lack of trying. And so I think some of these younger guys got to realize, like, hey man, this is this isn't do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. Like, if, you need to spend time with your teammates, and when you know what a guy's been through and you can empathize, you put yourself in their shoes, then your respect for them grows, and I think your love for them grows as well. So I think that's critical.
Can you kind of reflect on your first few months as an on-the-road recruiter and maybe why that's led to some success in the 23 class at your position?
Yeah, well, I think we've had success because we have a great product to sell, number one. But I think we try to be very specific in what we're looking for, and because we have a very specific criteria and we have a lot of boxes to check, that eliminates a lot of guys before we get on the road. And then I think we were very successful in getting guys here for fall, getting guys here in the spring. You have a couple events that you want to try to get guys to, because it shows that they're very interested in Clemson, and then it also gives you an opportunity to spend time with them. When you go on the road in April and May, you can't have any interaction with prospects. And so when you get them on campus, you can hang out with them all day. And so I think that's part of building that thing up. So when you see them, the 23 class, for instance, when you see them in the spring, it's more just it's affirmation, confirmation that you're on the right guys. And then you're also kind of building that next couple guys if we miss out on a few and stuff like that. So it's always, nothing replaces getting to see a guy in person, the film and all that stuff.
What's maybe something from your recruitment to Clemson that you've used, good or bad, in your role as a recruiter now?
Yeah, well, I think I'm able to tell guys that when I was being recruited, first of all, I always ask myself, would I have recruited myself? I don't know if I would have, but we're at a different level now. But where we are as a program is very different than where we were in 05. And so as I'm having conversations with guys, one of the things I want to know is this guy want to play for championships? And so when I was coming to Clemson, I had other schools that were giving me opportunities to maybe play early, but those schools were just trying to get to a bowl game. Clemson was trying to win an ACC championship. We're trying to win championships every year. We're going to win championships every year. So you're looking for guys that want to compete and aren't afraid of competition and want to go win championships, because that's important. Obviously the education part of it, but do you want to go win a championship? And are you not afraid of that competition? When you have a guy that's, Anna asked about, like, if a guy's always asking, hey coach, how many guys are you going to take? What are your numbers? Then, is this guy afraid of competing, or is he waiting for us to fill up, or what? But when you got guys that want to go compete and know that it's a process, of becoming a great offensive lineman, I think that's always a good thing in recruiting.
Coach, how important has it been for the offensive line to have this established momentum, especially when last season, 6 straight wins, having 100+ rushing yards per game in those wins? Is it really important important for the offensive line going into the spring and now fall camp to have that kind of momentum established? Like, hey, we've been here, done that.
Yeah.
To pick up where they left off.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one thing we say every year is you got to restart. You got to rebuild the house. That last year's touchdowns don't carry over. But I do think there's a confidence in the, when we had to run the football, we did. And so I think as an offensive line group, we want to run the ball when we want to, and when we have to, we want to protect the quarterback. And so, we know that a balanced attack gives you the most opportunity. And so, I think one thing is you can't control what play is called, but you just do your job on that play. And so everyone talks about balance. Balance is important. But all those guys, they want to run the football, and they want to impose their will on another team. So to be able to do that down the stretch, I think was encouraging, especially after the slow start. Yeah.
This may be a dumb question, but I'm guessing at this point, taking someone from the transfer portal is probably that's passed.
Yes, we're no longer looking, in the portal.
Did that get close with anyone or any guys y'all kind of?
There are a few guys that we were, talks to. Obviously, we brought a young man in and did the whole process with him, and he went somewhere else. And then there were a couple of guys that we talked to throughout the year. But we are very, very specific. We want to build through our team. We want to build through high schools. I mean, that's our portal's in the locker room, because Sweet says all the time. And the portal for us was just, hey, the injury with Hunter Rayburn, Mason's situation, and not being able to play some games this year. That, is there a fifth-year veteran guy out there that would fill that need? Let's see if it is, because at the end of the day, what's the best thing for our team? But we weren't going to compromise what we were looking for, and we certainly weren't looking for a second or third-year developmental guy, because we like those guys on our roster. It's just a matter of finding a veteran. Didn't find them, that's fine. We got enough guys on our team that we can do everything we need to do.
Can you describe the season that you're expecting to have from Jordan this year?
Jordan, yeah. I mean, I think Jordan's undoubtedly one of the best tackles in the country. If Jordan was 6'6", he would be ranked the best tackle in the country, I believe. So he gets nixed a little bit because he doesn't have the prototypical size. But he's a ultra competitive kid, very committed to our team, very committed to his craft and becoming a great player. And so I think he's going to have a tremendous year. And he's not going to surprise anyone in our building, because we all know what he's about. But I think there's going to be a lot of people outside our building that are surprised at the recognition that he gets, that he deserves.
What does it mean to have like a local guy be so successful in this program?
Yeah, it means everything. I mean, I was involved in Jordan's recruitment. He was committed to another school initially, and we had told him, hey, there's some things that we want to see from you, and he did those things, and we offered him his senior year, and he chose to come to Clemson. So, again, we want to win the state first and foremost in recruiting, and a guy being an hour down the road, he grew up watching Clemson. He knows what Clemson's about, and he's a great ambassador for our program.
How refreshing is it for you going into fall camp with the offensive line being relatively healthy, not having to worry about whether or not you're going to have to check one of the players into a triage unit for you?
Sure. No, you want to be healthy going into camp, absolutely, and we are. Which is good. I mean, the only guy, Dietrich's got a couple guys that are coming off of surgeries. A guy like Dietrich and John Williams, but they had him early in the year, and so they've been fully cleared. Went through spring. John went all the way through spring practice. Dietrich, we tried to build up, and so he's going to be full go as well. So yeah, we're in a very good spot from an injury standpoint.
How about Sadler? He was hurt in the spring, right?
Sadler got sick. He got sick, yes, sir. So no injuries, but had a sickness. Had someone on our team get mono, and we thought he might have it, but he didn't have it. So, but then he's a tough kid. He came back and practiced once, and then played in our spring game, and he had not gotten many reps for a couple weeks before that.
All right, thanks, TA.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
We'll have Mike Reed at this station, Nick Eason in the middle, Lewinsky Hall on the far side. Wait, Ross, who's going to be here? This will be Mike Reed. Okay. Nick Eason in the middle, Lewinsky Hall on the far side. It's going to be Mike Reed. So you were in Atlanta yesterday? Sorry. And you're going to back in? Yeah. You're going to Charlotte. Oh, you're going to Charlotte that? Gotcha. Where's Beth? And then she's driving up to Charlotte. Yeah, well,
Good.